All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. It is Thursday, October 10th. This is the Arts and Culture Board meeting for the city of Littleton. If I may start with a request to amend the agenda, what I'd like to do is move the arts or the ACC presentation forward to fall just before our old business line item so that we can appreciate and not keep you here any longer than absolutely necessary. So if there's no objection, I'm going to call that a done deal. The first thing on our agenda then is the city council liaisons report. I do not see our city council liaison here tonight, so if she is able to join us later, then we will interrupt the scheduled programming for that. Next up, directors' reports. After you, Dennis.
I insist.
I only have two quick things. First of all, kudos to JD, Denise, Michelle, and Kate, and Anna, who did a wonderful job Tuesday night presenting to the city council. I think it was extremely well received. I heard a lot of really good compliments yesterday from the leadership team that were there. So great job. They did a quick recap of all the things that were going on in 2024, a look ahead to 2025, and then they went through the lodgers tax grants. And while I didn't stay for the entire budget presentation last night, my understanding is that for the study session action, all of the grant awards that the board made went through without any change. And then just one quick advertising note, our Harvest Festival with the museum is on Saturday, 10 to 3. Come out and buy a pumpkin from maybe the most expensive, but also the most atmospheric place you could buy.
I just bought 5 today. I will buy more.
You must buy 5 then from us. It's a rule. That's all I've got.
Season going swimmingly at the library. We wrapped up a pretty festive banned books week in late September, which is our occasion every year to raise awareness for the impacts of censorship. Participating in Digital Inclusion Week and National Voter Education Week this week. Otherwise, not a whole lot specifically to share. We continue to work on filling our technical services supervisor position, which should be vacant, which should be filled in short order. We're getting very close to selecting candidates.
Any questions? Anna, can I ask you is there anything else this weekend of interest to the Arts and Culture Board that you'd be willing to share?
Well, JT, I'm so glad you asked. Yes, there is the second of 2 Arts and Culture Board trainings this Saturday. Unfortunately, it conflicts with Harvest Fest, but at least JD and I will be there. It is at the Epic campus and it's from 8 to 12:30. So as I said, it's the second of 2 trainings led by Mountain Sage Consulting. And we've got approximately 12 organizations that will be represented there. Should be a good time.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comment. If you wish to address the Arts and Culture Board under public comment, please sign in at the speaker form. Everyone will be limited to 3 minutes, and the board is not authorized to discuss, comment, or take action at the meeting on any issue raised by public comment that is not part of tonight's agenda. Is there anyone here? Ms. Chadbourne, would you care to address the board?
My name is Pam Chadbourne and I live downtown. A few comments on documents. If there's an acronym on the agenda, would you please spell it out on the first occurrence? I say that to all the boards and commissions at some point, so nothing personal. Even if it's ACC and we all should know that's Arapahoe Community College, please spell it out the first occurrence. And second, please consider posting the data packet that you all get for the material you're going to consider. The clerk has been telling boards that you don't have to post that, therefore you shouldn't. And I'm going to encourage you, but you have every right to post that information for the public, and I think you should. Also for prospective members, I think one of the best ways for prospective members to be recruited and interested in joining boards is to see the work you folks have done and what you do. Over the year, they can go back and look at Tier 2 before and say, oh, wow, I didn't realize I'll get up to speed on that. So please consider telling the clerk, we want to post, I mean, I think you're all getting a data packet to come to the meeting prepared. Please just post it, share it with the public. This is the public's work after all, and the public's money. So please consider telling the clerk, yeah, we want to post our document packet. I have a concern about murals and I'm curious if there's a policy, and I do apologize if there is, I don't know about it. Is there a limit to the number of murals and where they are at? I think you folks have a lot of money and you can fill the city with murals, and I am not comfortable with that idea personally. I'd like to have limits on murals. I'd like to know where they are and where they're not. And I'd like to know what happens if people have a problem with a mural, and if there is an appeal process or something like that. A policy around murals, I think for the community would be a good thing to have. Then, yes, I think your presentation on Tuesday to City Council was great. I'm going to say at a study session, they cannot take action. I assume that, if they don't make comments, they're gonna, when they take action. But study sessions, they cannot take action, Seth. But my comment about it is that, I've mentioned before that I think arts and culture includes historic preservation, and that both of you need to work with each other. I want to see you guys have joint meetings, 2 a year, learn who each other are, and what you can do for each other. I mentioned that Denver has a stories program where they record stories of community members. And I think that's arts and culture, but it's also historic. So there's this overlap of a precious vanishing commodity of the stories of the people who are here now, which you can capture.
That's time.
So anyway, that's what I wanted to kind of touch on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any of you like to join the public comment section of the meeting? Seeing no additional public comment, then I will close it and move into our new business portion of the meeting, featuring Arapahoe Community College presentation. Here's where I'd like to start, and I will invite you to join us at the table if you are so inclined. And while you're doing that, Arts and Culture Board, I'd like to go around and just do a quick introduction of who we are, and then I will ask all of you to do the same if you're presenting. If you don't want to present and you wish to remain anonymous over there, that's okay too. That is allowed. So start.
Yeah, hi, I'm Emily Abel, and I lose track of time, but Michelle, 3 years? 2? Okay, 2 years on the Arts and Culture Board.
Roy Barty, this is my second year on this board. Prior, I was with the Arapahoe County SCFD board for about 10 years.
My name's Denise Weed. I'm the vice chair, and I've served on various cultural boards throughout the city.
JD McCrum, I am currently the chair of the Arts and Culture Board.
Dennis Quinn, city staff, director of the Bemis Public Library.
Good name's museum director.
Becky Cosma, Deputy Director of the Museum. Jenny Hankinson, Senior Curator of Collections here at the museum.
I'm Joni Lieb. I've served on many different boards with the city.
I'm Tim Fugel. I am the new guy, and I always love seeing ACC people. So welcome.
Kate Eckel, Arts and Culture Board for 4 years, and then Fine Arts Board for 11.
Hi, I'm Michelle Siren, and I'm on 2 years.
Anna Dicey, Public Art Administrator.
Joseph Haynes, I've been on a few boards throughout the years.
Very good. And
I'm Katie Karen, and I will be presenting tonight. I am the department chair for Arts and Design at Arapahoe Community College. You guys can also introduce yourselves.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney Lofbaum. I serve as the Associate Vice President for Institutional Advancement, and I'm the Executive Director of the Foundation at Arapahoe Community College. I'll be co-presenting with Katie.
Thank you for having us. I'm Stephanie Fiji. I have the honor and pleasure of serving as the president for Arapahoe Community College.
I'm Cynthia Coink. I'm the Grants Development Director at Arapahoe Community College.
My name is John Trujillo. I'm the immediate past chair of the foundation at ACC, and I'm happy to be here tonight. So thank you. Thank you.
I'm Tom Coakley. I'm the academic dean at ACC.
thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And the floor is yours.
Thank you guys so much. I'm so excited about this presentation. Anna, can I have the proposal as well? Of course. I was like, I kind of want it. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read this ahead of time. Raise your hand if you have or haven't. Okay, this is pretty extensive, and I do want to thank Cynthia Coink, who put this together with a tremendous amount of research about ACC, the history of ACC, the cultural context for what we do. There's a lot of information in this, and so I'll be going into some of this in the presentation, but a lot of it I'm going to ask you guys to also read. Okay, sorry.
Homework, we are educators.
So I'm Katie Karen. Most of you know who I am. But a lot of you maybe don't know my background. So I've been thinking about what I wanted to talk today. I swim a lot. And so this morning I was just like swimming out all the things that I wanted to say to you guys today. I was really excited. So one of the things I thought was important is to have the context of why I'm presenting this to you and why I represent this at the college. So I have been an artist and an educator, an art educator in Colorado for about 20 years. I started at the Arvada Center for the Arts. I was there for 10 years. And then I worked in Jeffco teaching high school. Then I went on to get my master's degree at Cranbrook Academy of Art. I came back and started teaching at Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design for 5 years in the art education program, working with teachers, placing students in classrooms all over Denver, as well as teaching fine art students ceramics and sculpture. I then left that for-profit and moved to Arapahoe Community College, which is now my home. And I have to say, working at a community college is where I belong. I've worked for four-year institutions, nonprofits, for-profits, and community college is very different. And I kind of found a home there in the Art and Design Center. So I have been teaching at ACC for 10 years, running the ceramics program. And just this April, I am now the department chair for all of art and design. And I'm going to talk to you guys a lot about the programs that we offer broadly. But I'm also an artist. And I know a lot of you know this. And I always talk about how when we talk about bringing arts and culture to the city of Littleton, it's not just about providing opportunities for the public to spend money at businesses about the arts and bringing all that money and all that. It's also about the artists. I'm a working artist. My studio is in Englewood. I want to see studios in Littleton for artists to work in. And I also think it's really important that we have co-op galleries for artists to be able to show their work. And one of the things that I think Arapahoe Community College can do is offer those residencies, offer some of those spaces, not just for our students, but for the community. So being a working artist, it's hard. It's one of the hardest things I could ever do. There's nothing at ACC that could be any harder than putting on that installation. When you're a creator and you're creating something from nothing that never existed before with no money, tell me it's hard. It is. And I want to introduce Courtney.
Okay, I do not have that extensive of a background in arts, but I appreciate art and respect artists. So, yep, that is me. I have been with Arapahoe Community College for about 17 years now. So yes, I started when I was 12, but I have been involved in the Littleton community the entire time. As the executive director of the fundraiser, community is truly a part of everything that we do and partnerships and engagement. So I have served on the Hudson Gardens Foundation board for 10 years before it transitioned over to South Suburban. I served on the Western Welcome Week board. I've participated in the Milestones Project, which some of you may or may not know. It's a Steckel family here in Littleton. But truly, the funding that we receive from you all and from all of our investors and donors, that is what we do to invest back into our college. So we thank you for the opportunity today.
So why is art and culture important? So you all are here because you're on the commission. So I'm kind of speaking to the choir. You guys know why arts and culture is important, but I wanted to speak a little bit more broadly about it, philosophically. So I've done many study abroad trips, which are open both to the public and to students with ACC. And when I went to Berlin, and we went during COVID, which was extra special. It was an eye-opening experience for me, understanding what arts brings to a community. Because I was standing on one side of the wall, the Berlin Wall, which was full of freedom and community and arts and everyone sort of celebrating design. And then the other side of the wall was very stark. The architecture had no embellishment. There was no public art, no murals, no parks, nothing for people to do. And it was a real stark contrast. And I think about, why do we need arts and culture? We need it because we're human. And humans by nature need culture. Arts bring in a sense of belonging, bring a sense of purpose to people's lives. And you all know this, but I just kind of wanted to reiterate that experience that I had. In terms of arts bringing community, this is inside the Art and Design Center. You can see there's a lot going on. But when I think about the arts, I think about our built environment. Everything that we consume, whether it's consuming media, buying packaged goods that have marketing on it, the architecture that we walk through, the engineering of our cars, every aspect of your life was designed by an artist. And I think that sometimes we think about arts as being a decorative, frivolous thing that's only for the elite. And that's not what art is. Art is about innovation. It's about solving problems. It's about critical thinking. It's about community. So one of the things that we want to do at ACC is bring our community that we have within ACC out to the community and invite the community in. So we did a really awesome, we sponsored the Chalk Walk. I don't know if any of you guys went to that, but it was super fun. This allows other people in the community to engage and be part of something bigger than themselves. We had over 100 community members come to ACC during the Chalk Walk. They made rings, they made chalk, and they engaged with our students and our faculty. We have a really unique demographic at a community college. This is why I love teaching at a community college. I had a 3D design class with 5 different generations in it, and there were only 15 students in the class. Talk about diverse. And they all feed on each other. When I talk about the ceramics studio, I don't see the ceramics studio as a facility. I see it as a community. People come there because they need to be around each other to learn and to grow. So we have a robust facility, but it's really the people in that facility and what they're making that makes it important. Do you want to speak to this?
To the college mission?
Yeah.
Sure. One of the things that I love to tell, the story that I love to tell, is that Arapahoe Community College, when it was founded in 1965, it was founded by the members of this community. Folks like Houston Waring, folks like James McKechnie, who got together and wanted higher education in Littleton. It wasn't a mandate from the state, and it wasn't anybody in a federal government position who said we need a college in Littleton. It was truly the community that came together to build that college. And so our mission even now, I would say, reflects that. So we're here to provide innovative and responsive educational and economic opportunities in an accessible, inclusive environment that promotes success for students, employees, and the communities in which we serve. And our foundation was founded shortly thereafter the college was built, because the founders of the foundation recognized that there were not opportunities for funding that could just go directly to the college. State funding has always been a challenge. And so creating a foundation, a 501c3 organization to fund projects, to fund those specific things that state funding wouldn't cover is why the foundation was formed in 1971. So our mission is to work to advance the mission of the college by providing financial assistance and opportunities to students, by encouraging public support for the college and strengthening the teaching, learning, and cultural environment of the college and our community.
So I want to thank Cynthia for doing all this research. Cynthia is amazing. She spent some time in our library and found this amazing image of the first music class, the first schoolhouse that belonged to ACC in 1965. So our first faculty ever at ACC was actually an art faculty. It was Herman Jensen, Herm. And Cynthia got to interview Herm.
He comes back every year at our retirees breakfast and he has some thoughts on things. Like the sound was not working that day and he was not happy, but he is still there and he still comes back to the campus.
And our gallery, which I'm going to show you guys in a minute, our student gallery is called the Jensen Gallery. And my old office was where he had all of his slides. The art building was established in 1966, the music building 1969, and then the progenitor. And just so you guys know, on the back table, I brought in progenitors for everyone to take one and keep one. I'll talk a little bit more about the progenitor, but our progenitor is it's a public literary journal that is has national artists published in it, and our students design it. So we brought some for you guys to enjoy. But this has been around for quite a long time. Our music faculty, our first music faculty was Max Madrid in 1966, and he founded the Arapahoe Chamber Orchestra and the Arapahoe Choir. We're pretty rooted in the arts, I would say. Yeah. And I would say also, oh, there's the first art building. It looks like it's on the farm.
There was one on Main Street too. They moved to Main Street.
They moved to Main
before
Street?
They moved back onto what's now the campus. Yeah.
And this is our now new facility. It's grown quite a bit, I would say. This building was purchased probably in the 70s, I would say.
Yeah, well, 80s, I think.
Yeah, and it used to, as you know, used to be an old shopping center. But this is our art and design center. I wanted to also mention, and I don't know if it's super obvious to you all, and because I was talking to Denise about this just a moment ago. ACC is part of 13 other community colleges in the state of Colorado. It's called CCNS, Community College System. So we are one of 13 sister schools, and our curriculums do align. You were talking about how curriculums weren't aligning at other states. But we work within this larger community college system, but we are the most robust and significant art program out of all 13 colleges. We lead the curriculum development of all other 13 colleges. We are the only designated art and design center in the state for a community college. And I will say, speaking of facilities, that our facilities rival most four-year institutions. Our Art and Design Center houses a student gallery, the Hive Makerspace, interior design, photography, ceramics, jewelry. We also have construction management, multimedia, graphic design, and drawing and painting studios. So any of you who came to Art, Wine, and Design got to experience some of that. Now, I included this picture that was actually taken at Art, Wine, and Design, our fundraiser. We had our commercial photography department taking portraits of all the patrons and people that came in. And this is my family, okay? I'm like gonna cry. I mean, they are my best friends. I have been working with some of them for over 10 years. Robert Turk, I went to graduate school with him. I've been recruiting people from Cranbrook to come teach at ACC for about 10 years. And so we've got about we've got about 5 of them right now. So that's kind of a big deal because Cranbrook's kind of like the Harvard of arts in the country. So we have a very dedicated faculty. And I will tell you that all the programming that I'm about to show you has been solely done by the service of these faculty members. We are not getting paid for public programming. This is our service to the college and our service to the community. And we do it because we're extremely passionate about what we do. We're passionate about the arts, and we love our students in the community. So in terms of the programs that we offer within art and design, we have a robust studio arts program, and we are the only community college in the state of Colorado that has an Associates of Fine Arts degree. So our students, whether they're concurrent enrollment students, concurrent enrollment being high school students, 50% of our students at ACC are high school students, matriculating in to get their degrees early, get it cheap, and then transfer on to 4 years if they choose to as a junior. The majority of the faculty that I supervise in art and design, though, are not studio arts. They're CTE faculty, career technical education. So our interior design department collaborates with Habitat for Humanity. They go out into the community and they build and they design. Our architecture department, run by Robert Turek, does construction management as well. Our multimedia graphic design designed the progenitor. They've designed the murals down at Aspen Grove, and John Hall, who runs graphic design, says yes to everyone.
Our program at Art, Wine and Design too.
He's just, I don't know where he gets his energy. And then commercial photography, they are all over the community currently. They photograph for Graceful Cafe for free. They're donating their time to do videos and media. So in terms of our facilities, I know I was kind of bragging about them already. And I have to brag about ceramics because it is my area of expertise, sorry. But we have a kiln yard that has one of the only wood kilns in the state. There's probably 3 other wood kilns in the state of Colorado. So it is a very niche space. And we get people from all over Denver coming in to use our kilns. My hope with this grant is that we can start opening up these firings to participants from the community at a discounted rate, or have them come and just experience the event. We also have a phenomenal jewelry studio and commercial photography studio. The Hive Maker Space was created about 6 years ago. I was part of a group of other faculty who wrote an innovation grant to the state of Colorado. And we won the grant. And so we created the Hive Maker Space. And I know the library also has a maker space. This maker space is going to be a little bit more industry focused and a little bit more robust. We have a fleet of 3D printers, CNC router, laser cutting, and we are laser cutting coasters for the town hall's Hunchback of Notre Dame as we speak. But we have a lot of workshops and public programming. The Hive Makerspace is now open to membership. So you can be a community member, pay $55, and then have access to that space. The Hive is important to me because it's a really good model for how we can build out other studios like printmaking, photography, and drawing and painting to have dedicated space for resident artists and community workshops. The other thing to know about Arapahoe Community College is we also have our workforce community education program, which isn't necessarily separate from the college, but it runs sort of adjacent, and it's for community members. We have tons of programming already for youth, as well as adults and lifelong learners. This picture is so dorky, but these are some students, they're so cute, they're middle schoolers, who made these speakers in the Hive Maker Space in a camp last summer at ACC. The Jansen Gallery is a student gallery, but it's also a little bit of an experimental curation space. This is the show we currently have up of the Women's Caucus murals, celebrating women artists. And the opening is going to be this Thursday, next Thursday, not this moment, next Thursday in the gallery. This is a really unique space. We have conferences here. The Colorado Art Education Conference is held here as well as in the Art and Design Center. And this is lots of rotating shows of student and public work. And there's another view of the gallery. These murals are really cool. And a lot of these women are alive. They're current local artists. And then we have our larger gallery, the Colorado Gallery for the Arts, which is on our main campus. And we do tons of programming for the public in this gallery. Littleton Public Schools has their elementary through high school showcase, Heritage Fine Arts Guild shows here. We're doing a shared vision show with the Center for the Blind. Students use this also for their capstone show and thesis shows, and then study abroad exhibitions. Shared Visions is a show that we do. This is going to be our 10th year, and it's going to be soon. It's coming up. The art students are making work for it right now. This is a collaboration with the Colorado Center for the Blind. So all the students from the Colorado Center for the Blind walk down and they participate in the show. They have work in the show, and everything in the show is tactile and can be touched. We're starting to do more Final Fridays. Pre-COVID, it used to be First Fridays, and so we would open up the gates of the Art and Design Center, do raku firings, printmaking, and we've started coming back and doing more Final Fridays. And then we have a pretty strong collaboration with Aspen Grove. We're going into our 4th year where we'll do a public mural competition where students will design a variety of murals. They get industry experience, then the public votes on the mural, and then the students create the mural. And here are the students making the mural. And this is all done within the classroom. Nathan does this with his students in the classroom. And then this is our Aspen Grove pop-up show, which is a student showcase of all the art and design programs. And this is down at Aspen Grove and open to the public for about 3 weeks. And work is for sale as well. And I think the last slide of mine, maybe, I know I'm going on and on, is the public art. So this is a big thing for me. I'm on the subcommittee for public art, but I am very dedicated to growing the public art program at ACC and how that extends out into the community with my experience and connections with the larger Denver network who work in public art, specifically the Museum of Outdoor Arts. So we have a collaboration with Tim Vaca at the Museum of Outdoor Arts. They funded a design build for our students to design a public piece for the Highline Canal during my 3D design class last semester. And we're going to be doing more work with the Museum of Outdoor Arts. They're going to start doing their residency program at ACC every summer. Yep, I'm very excited, you guys. Public art. Oh, yes, and then the music program. So we have the Waring Theater, and the Waring Theater hosts community programs, choirs, jazz concerts, orchestra concerts. This was a really fun one. It's used as a music venue. And then our progenitor. So our progenitor is what I have back there for you guys. And I talked a little bit about that. We also participate in the annual Bemis Creative Writing Contest and the postcard anthology, so you guys can read. And I'll let you take.
Sure. So that was a lot of stuff that we do actively at the college, but one of the other things that we wanted to point out were some of these community events that we create. Who's been to the Affordable Arts Festival? Yay! So this was our 13th year. The gentleman who helps put this on, the director of the show, Jim DeLutis, came to me 14 years ago and said, Littleton is the perfect spot for this festival. How do we partner to make this happen? And so after some negotiations and you know, we received some proceeds for our foundation for scholarships. But the coolest part for Littleton is that we're bringing 8,000 to 10,000 people down to our community in one day. And so I know that there's 3 food trucks there, and they're not staying there necessarily to eat. They're coming down and they're going to the different stores and shops and restaurants on Main Street, Littleton. We're doing it again next year, last Sunday in August, but this is again, one other opportunity that we have to bring folks down to our community. And I would say, before I get into this, this wouldn't happen, or the Affordable Arts Festival nor the Art, Wine, and Design, if our foundation board didn't have a commitment to the arts and culture. JT not only is a successful investment banker, but he is also a graduate of our ceramics program at Arapahoe Community College. And under his leadership, he is the one who encouraged us to do both the Affordable Arts Festival and Art, Wine, and Design. And who's been to Art, Wine, and Design? Good. Oh, I love seeing that. Again, another event where we're opening the doors of the Design Center, bringing in the community, encouraging folks to get out and participate and to appreciate arts and culture in Littleton. And so, you know, the reason why we're here, you all, there's a difference and just kind of a perception, I would say, about how ACC is funded. We are, as Katie mentioned, a part of the Colorado Community College system. There are 13 community colleges. Colorado is not doing great when it comes to funding for higher education, okay? Ranked 49th in the country for funding for higher education. What is it, Arkansas maybe?
I think it's Mississippi or Alabama,
Yeah.
but I can't remember. Do you know?
And so
It's not good.
it's not good. And so there is this, I would say, you know, misunderstanding that, oh, ACC gets all this state funding. The reality is, you know, I've been at the college for a while. And so when I started, probably even 10 years before that, so maybe like 30 years ago, the funding model was that approximately 70% of the budget came from the state and 30% came from tuition and fees from our students. Guess what that is now? Completely reversed. So tuition and fees make up our budget. So if enrollment is down, we're in trouble, right? Thing doesn't look good. And so we truly know that a lot of the budget that we have is made up of grants and additional funding sources, but not at all from the state of Colorado. Even with this model, as this next bullet point says, sorry. Arts and cultural programming, you know, as we all know, and speaking to the choir here, preaching to the choir, they're low on the list, right? And so all that stuff that Katie just talked about is done because we have passionate and committed folks who understand the impact that arts and culture has on our community. We know for critical thinking, for innovation, for mental health. Go ahead. Kind of to the point I was making before about how we are bringing revenue to the city of Littleton with the Affordable Arts Festival. There was a study that was done in 2015 to 2016, this economic impact study that really identified how ACC adds income, a tune of over $337 million to the region, as well as creating jobs. And so really, we just wanted to demonstrate here that we know that this has to be a mutually beneficial relationship. You are all smart people. And so when you are considering what this tier 1 funding can do, I know that you're looking at it as an investment. And so we want to be able to show how there is a return on that investment, and that this part of our school, this arts and culture part, is really a big key to how we can do that.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about a website that we're developing right now. This is just, I can click on the link in a minute. But I've been working with the marketing department about how to kind of frame an arts and culture page so that we come off a little less siloed. You know, we're a large institution and we have a lot of little moving parts. And so I've asked marketing to put together this web page. Hopefully this link works. It worked. Amazing. And this is just a rough draft to show you guys sort of how we might have a page where it shows the different events that we're doing that you can learn more about. as well as different buttons that you can click on, like if you're interested in learning more about what the galleries are offering. It's a one-stop shop for different events that we're doing. So that's one of the efforts that we're looking toward to kind of bring a more understanding and communication to the community, as well as tying this link to the City of Littleton's page. Okay.
Okay. So lastly, we are here talking to you about this tier one funding opportunity and truly, thank you for even just considering Arapahoe Community College to become a candidate or to become a recipient of this level of funding. This is a big deal to us. I would say that is demonstrated by our president of the college being here, by the dean of the departments that falls under him, our foundation board chair. We really just want you all to know that we are taking this very seriously. We know that dollars are scarce and that every dollar matters. And so we just wanted to kind of end just stating, and it's in the proposal, what would we do with these funds if received? First and foremost, one of the things that I personally loved the most was to hear that we would create this task force. As Katie demonstrated, you gave us some feedback regarding how disjointed it appeared on our website. We heard that and created a one-stop shop. So this task force that the members are listed in the proposal, we would also invite one of you to serve on that, to help ensure that we are truly meeting the intent of the dollars that we receive from you. We know your vision and your mission, and we have Katie who serves on the board with you to ensure that the dollars are spent. And so truly that next goal for community engagement is huge for us. Community colleges in general are kind of looking at, is this model working? You've heard it in the news, like our students going to college anymore when they can get degrees online, right? So we're looking at better ways to partner with the community, to partner with business and industry. And so community engagement is the first goal that we have to use these funds for. And then another goal that's, again, discussed a little bit more in detail in the proposal is to promote and expand this programming. Katie listed a lot of things, but just imagine what we could do if we had a little extra funding to help us with that, to help with our expertise. She talked about the faculty and staff and where they're coming from and what they're doing. A little extra funds can really help us open those doors even more. So with that, I just really want to say thank you for your time and for your consideration. As I mentioned, we know this is a big deal and we know that this is important. And we truly know that we can be the good stewards of these dollars that you all work so hard to spend in a way that meets the vision of this board and this commission.
So we want to open it up for any questions that you guys have, since we have so many people from the college here.
As we do that, Arts and Culture Board, let me put a little bit of framework around what's going to happen tonight and then moving forward. I absolutely 100% invite you to ask questions of the Arapahoe Community College panelists to gain clarity of the presentation, to gain insight into what you saw tonight, into the programs, into those types of things. What we are not going to do this evening is discuss the merits of the ask. So we are not going to get into should they or should they not be a tier one entity tonight. Gather information tonight from the representatives here, and then do your homework. There's homework. Read the packet. And then if you have questions, if you need more context, please, over the course of the next few weeks, send them to Tim. He will collate and get clarity from Katie or Courtney or someone else, from the city attorney, from the city manager's office, wherever the appropriate source of information will be. And then we will come back next month and consider the ask of tier one status. What would happen then is a recommendation, should the Arts and Culture Board make one, would get passed along to the city council. It is ultimately their decision about whether this does or does not happen. We would only be a recommendation, an endorsement, something along those lines. So any questions first about that process or what I'm asking you to ask or not ask tonight?
I've got
Very
a
good.
question about the task force that you mentioned. Basically, if the funding would go to the foundation, is your intent. The question is, how are we guaranteed that the money stays in arts and culture and doesn't get maybe a little bit given to
Yeah.
some other department?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. We operate through fund accounting. And so we have a variety of different grants and funds that have specific designations. Like today, Cynthia met with the Colorado Garden Foundation, who awarded us $15,000 to help create a community garden. And so that is accounted for in our system as the Colorado Garden Foundation grant. We have the agreement that talks about what the money is to be used for or not. As our principal investigator, our PI, our person responsible for that grant, which Katie would like to be, they ensure that the funding is expended the way that we promised it would be. And then we make regular annual reports too.
I would offer,
I'm sorry.
I would offer, we run a lot of our grants through the foundation because it gives the organization that gave us the grant and the PI more flexibility to actually make the determination and to ensure the funding goes there. Because I'm a state entity, oh, that's messy. And so when we get money from a state entity, there's a lot of bureaucracy that even comes with even trying to, even when I have the money to spend the money, when it runs through the foundation, it's separate. And so that's how we ensure greater autonomy and respect for the intent of the grant and the expenditure of the grant. And they're audited every single year
Every year.
to ensure that we are fulfilling that. And then it runs through our foundation board also is the double check for that as well.
And I will say the first grant that we got, I've been working with it, and every month we have an audit of, have you used the funds? What have you used them for? And it has to fit within what we've asked.
Scope of work.
The scope of
essentially,
work.
yeah.
Well, can I?
Yes, please.
So the college, because the college is a federal grantee with a certain material grants, we follow under the OMB rules for accounting for grants and have to abide by, GAAP accounting, which is generally accepted accounting principles in the United States. And so because the college falls under that and we share accounting stuff, basically the foundation does too. Spending grant funds on something that isn't part of the scope of work is illegal.
Yeah.
But our accounting department is very meticulous of keeping all grant funds separate, accounting for them all the exact same way, because not only is Courtney audited as a foundation, but the college participates in a single state audit every year as a state entity. And, we do, as the grants office, but definitely our fiscal services department is very good about holding all of us accountable to that.
It's a good question.
Thank you.
Michelle, did you?
How did you know I had a question?
You,
I did, didn't I?
your body language.
She was like,
See it. I think you just
I
know
think he
always
can
have
read
a
your
question. I wasn't even thinking I was raising my hand, but my question is about the foundation. I just don't, could you give like a 1-minute summary of why ACC needs a foundation? Is it the same reason why LPS needs a foundation?
yep.
And like, okay, and
Pretty
then
much.
also like, could then LPS say, we'd like to be a tier 1 too, like,
That's a next month question. But the
Okay,
first
all right.
question,
all right.
have at it.
So yeah, if I could just understand.
Yeah, sure. So kind of the reason that we were created was to support student, staff, and programs at the college, right? So kind of as Cynthia alluded to, the college is only receiving federal funds and has specific guidelines. Usually a college will set up a foundation or a nonprofit to help receive and pass through other funding like that. We focus on like 4 main categories: scholarships for our students, student emergency funding, programmatic support for, things like this, and any capital kind of support. And so we raise and award everything in, support of the college. And there's just certain things that some individuals, if you are a philanthropist or if you're another foundation, you want to contribute to a 501c3 organization, which is what we are, rather than to a state entity.
And one of the things I would offer up is that Courtney alluded to this before, community is our middle name. We have a responsibility as far as delivering outcomes to our community. That makes us different from a university. And I would offer that makes us different from a high school, and that we are not, because we have to deliver on outcomes to the community, that's part of the mission, that's typically part of the strategic plan, that's part of the system strategic plan in terms of how are you improving the economic vitality of your region, of your service area, of your community. And there's a variety of measures. And so that's why the work that our faculty are doing is considered service to the college. Even though it's external, it is still considered service to the college because it is service to the community.
The last thing I might add on the foundation is that we also receive unique gifts. We have an auto program. Sometimes we receive car donations. We've been gifted a house before. And so through the foundation, we can process those gifts and then sell them, of course, and turn around and use that for programming.
It's a good question.
I have a question if you need to tap me down. Just let me know. I think it falls into tonight's perimeters.
And there's so many rules.
Yeah. It's the
City's own rules.
That's good. That's what keeps
Yes,
order. We
yes.
get it.
So I can foresee the question coming up in that because you are an educational institution and you have other funding streams, why you would come to us as a funding stream. And so I'd like to have an answer should that be asked.
So I'll take a stab at that and these folks can feel free. So Courtney shared with you about the reality of our funding. So I would offer up to give you context, roughly the way that things exist right now. And I think your board packet talks a little bit about this. But roughly, we receive about 40% of our budget from tuition. We receive about 30% of our budget from the state, and then about 20% from grants. We are very, very aggressive on the grants front at our college, or else we wouldn't be able to do the programs that we've done. And then another 10% is probably roughly auxiliary funding. One of the slides talked about that the state does no rewarding for arts programs unless it is tied to very specific traditional academic kind of outcomes. And so under Katie's leadership, under the leadership of the faculty, it's recognizing that arts is a vital part of one's intellectual development. And so that's why we are trying to seek alternative funding. I will be honest, the state budget does not, it has me nervous. And I anticipate that we will get decreased funding. When I have decreased funding, then I have to make some very, very hard calls regarding the programs that we will be able to do. And I don't want to do that. So that's why we are trying to reach out as much as we possibly can. But again, the funding mechanisms that we receive as they relate to the state, and then also truly in competition with the other 13 colleges. And so I could foresee a future where they're like, you guys don't need any more money. And so therefore, then I will have to start cutting back on my programs. What I would offer up an investment in ACC and this program, we've been around for almost 60 years. You want to make sure another 60 years of greater vitality in the arts, this kind of investment will do that because she is codifying, she's setting up structures, also in partnership with the foundation that will sustain beyond the individuals. Because that will be the way in which we operate as an institution and the way the Art and Design Center operates, regardless of whoever is in charge.
Yeah. I would just say also, I think having multiple revenue streams is actually what we should be doing, right? To make sure that we're positioning ourselves in order to serve the community. We have to look to multiple revenue streams. We cannot rely solely on state funding or even tuition, because those are very big question marks. I mean, who knew a global pandemic was gonna hit? You hear all the time that colleges enrollment when the pandemic hit went, I mean, and that's the reality where I would say are being good stewards to diversify where our income is coming from to allow us to meet the community needs. The community is still gonna have needs regardless if state funding goes down, right? The community is still gonna have needs to be educated. If, you know, they change their desire for in-person or online learning. So we have to adapt to that. So I think by looking at additional funding sources like this, it just helps us to meet our mission, which is to, you know, help improve the economic and social mobility of our entire community. So.
So thank you. I have a follow-up tie-on connected question. Really two, I guess. What approximately is the general fund budget of Arapahoe Community College?
But like, so do you mean what we expend every year or what we?
Yes, in the non-capital,
Well, so you're talking for salaries and for, I mean, I can say it's about $70 million if you're including salaries, student support, some facilities.
yeah. So my question is, and it's in light of the fact that our current tier 1 organizations get about $100,000 a year against a $70 million budget, and with all of the obstacles that you've outlined tonight. It's a two-part question. One is, can you talk about the level of priority given to the arts programs, to the overall arts, to the overall Arapahoe Community College organization and the future of those programs? And what other funding, because you've outlined an amazing and robust program, which $100,000, while helpful, certainly won't rescue if there's hard decisions to be made. So can you talk about the importance of those programs to your organization, the future of them, and then what other funding mechanisms you're seeking to support them?
So I can talk a little bit about the future and what I think. I don't have great historical perspective. I'm only my 4th year serving as the college president. But I will tell you, this is not my first rodeo. I've been in higher education for roughly 30 years. My previous institution, Scottsdale Community College, had an arts program and it was dying. And I had fantastic faculty, but they were not doing any external outreach. They were very good artists. And they cared about their students, but they were not having the creativity to really be able to, they were just really struggling in that capacity. When I came to ACC, we have this gorgeous facility, and the fact that the equipment, the dedication, the commitment, and even though and I'll be frank, the building's old. You know, I'd love to fix up the building, the quality of some of the equipment, but what these folks are able to do is so impressive to me. And I will tell you that I have been so impressed because with Katie's leadership, it's talking about arts education, art career preparation very differently. Recognizing that we need to make sure our students know how to be entrepreneurial. We need to make sure our students have breadth of experience to be able to be prepared. Because if they want to work at as an artist, we want them to be able to do that, but we want to help them also be able to live, to be able to eat. Under her leadership and the leadership of the faculty, they are understanding that. So it's partnering, it's looking at cross-disciplinary stuff, because that is the future. And I will say that we're doing that same in our healthcare programs. We're doing it throughout the institution. And so for me, and I will also tell you for my provost, my vice president of instruction, also for our dean, great investment in terms of there's wonderful synergy. We can see what the possibilities are. That is why the institution is making this kind of request. I feel very strongly we would not make the request of you if I could not feel confident that we will be able to deliver yields for years to come. We are not going away. Institutions will close. I will tell you the next 10 years, I would not be surprised if we have a number of higher education institutions in this state close. ACC will not close. The investment that we're making now, though, particularly in an arts program, will enable us to sustain delivery of community outcomes. Also, I also feel very, very strongly about this because we have been in conversations with the city of Littleton. I had a wonderful conversation with the city manager, and he was sharing with me about the vision of what this community aspires to be, particularly as it relates to an arts community. That is so very, very exciting. So this is not just ACC. But when you have the city of Littleton also invested in it, and then we start talking about what are the possibilities for the whole community. LPS is a great institution to work with. Look at what Epic's doing. Is there an arts component out there? Oh, there's all kinds of fun things that we'd be able to do. That's what we are looking at as a community. And so that's what I would offer up as far as where I believe the institution has the opportunity and the potential and the direction, again, under the leadership that we have.
Did that answer your question, Jaden?
It answered it and more.
Do you mind if I chime in just a little bit
Please.
on that? I just want to be clear, and Stephanie can correct me if I'm wrong, but our academic programs, some of which Katie talked about, that's part of our general budget. But when we're talking about going out and doing community events, hosting gallery things, doing study abroad, these are all completely self-funded. The students do fundraisers, the faculty do fundraisers, they stay up all night building pedestals and whitewashing walls for a new exhibit. These things are not part of our general budget. That extra programming, and it's the same in in many colleges that don't, that aren't giant universities with endowments, research departments, but and it's the same for other programming. When we have extra, services for our students, faculty, staff, and leadership come to the grants office and the foundation and ask us to seek funding for these things that are not part of the general budget. All of the things, those community facing, non-matriculating, community education, those things are self-funding or must be fundraised for.
Yeah,
So
I think
just
that's a
being clear
really,
about
yeah,
that.
that's a really important piece. It is 70 million, but
I'm not seeing that.
yeah, that is
Not
to
getting any of that.
that is to operate, we have over 1,000 employees, right? And so that's we have 12,000 students that we're taking care of. We have 2 buildings and one that we lease out. And so to Cynthia's point, these programmatic pieces are really self-funded. I mean, there's literally a bake sale going on to help fund our art students to go onto these study abroad trips. And so it is a bit misleading when you when you hear that number, that $70 million. But the reality is that these programs do not have that type of operational or external type of support.
And one thing I just want to clarify too, we use the acronym FTE, and what that means is full-time equivalency. So within the Art and Design Center, we're a very small program compared to nursing, compared to even automotive or English. I mean, imagine how many students have to take English and math and science. Art is an elective, right? So our FTE, no matter what, is lower than any other program at the college because it's only an elective for some students, right? Our CTE programs, we get some funding from the state for equipment, which is called Perkins funding. But the FTE is paying for our adjunct faculty. It's paying for our full-time faculty, and we get a little bit of a budget for the year to spend on consumables. But in terms of public programming, it all comes from my office and my desk and my assistant and my volunteers. Every single program I showed you there is my office, and it's a skeleton crew.
And the faculty donating their time.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I have other programs. I don't know if I know for a fact, I get nowhere near the yield that I get from these faculty that donate their time and their energy and their expertise because they love and they believe in the work and choose to do service in the community. because faculty can choose service in a variety. But the fact that they do that, I think, speaks to their passion of really wanting to partner with our community in celebrating and expanding arts opportunities.
And in terms of, tier one funding, it would really help us be able to build out an infrastructure within the art and design facility that I run to offer spaces specifically for community involvement. Right now, our spaces are dedicated to FTE because that's where we get our money. If we're getting money from somewhere else, I could dedicate now a whole new space specifically for the community to come. And I want more and more community to come in those doors.
And I think that's the last part that I would really want to emphasize. I know you guys have received grants from this before, but that really want that community tie-in, that it has a direct impact that we can see and that you would report on back to the community.
Yeah.
You know as well as I, we had $0 3 years ago. And now with the grant funding, we have a significant pocket, but we are responsible stewards. That's what this board does. Is responsible stewards for those funds.
Makes sense.
And I didn't know, JD, if I'd be able to shuffle this story in, but I do think it's appropriate at this point because I was in a wood firing that we had this last weekend. Katie had mentioned we have one of the 3 that's in the state. I've had the privilege of firing in 2 of those 3.
I thought it was a pizza oven at first. I rolled down the window and gave a whiff.
It's a unique effect, but the reason I'm telling you this, I went to DU and I was in their art program. They have a phenomenal art program there. I was lucky enough to study under Maynard Tischler. I don't know if any of you guys know his sculptural work. But Katie had mentioned earlier, our facilities are as robust, if not more, than DU's. And so are you going to save our program by this funding? No, we're not looking for us to be saved by these dollars, but it could certainly be additive. And the story I wanted to share at the wood firing, I was talking to one of the professors, and she was explaining to me how important the program is. And we all appreciate the arts, so that's why we're here. But she says to me, she's like, when I get students in my class, I have an ability to connect them because some of them have high anxiety. They can't focus. They can't do the things, like maybe some traditional students do, but art calms them down. It's meditative. And so again, I don't need to sell you on that story, but it's something that happened. It was fresh to me. And I thought if it comes up in this committee, I just wanted to share that with you. I thought it was powerful.
And one thing I just want to say is, my kids are in Euclid and Little Raven, and they go to Goodson and Buck, and we participate in all South Suburban activities. ACC is different. We are an incubator for higher thinking in terms of the arts, and being able to give that and provide that to the community, to be inclusive to the community, to come and do what they need to do as a community arts center is different than a community center. And I just want to emphasize that we are the leaders in arts in Littleton. And so I believe that we need to share our education and our network with the community.
I do have a question about the task force. I'd like to go back to that. It might be more of a softball question than the last one. I'm not sure. It might not. But it looks like that's tied to tier 1 status. And knowing ACC has already received tier 2 grant funding, is there a reason why you haven't already implemented task force?
We do have a smaller task force in that it goes through Cynthia, Courtney, myself, and the faculty. But I think that, as we move forward, regardless of whether we get tier 1 funding, I still think it's a very good idea because we want to be inclusive throughout the whole college, including the music department, including the journalism department, the gallery. We have a lot of moving parts. And so we want to be equitable in terms of how those funds are rolled out. I will say the initial funding that we're receiving is sort of like a jump start, like, okay, we exist. Let's start with that. Okay, we're here. Okay, now we look better. And now we can actually invite you in for free things. So we're here. Now we're here with the free programming that we're providing with tier 2. Okay, now we're ready You know,
So
so
would this move forward then without being a part of tier one, or is it dependent on being in tier one?
the task force, I mean, yeah, I mean, it can be
just
established. If
curious.
that's your recommendation, we can't establish it anytime. Yeah,
Can I speak to that
please,
just a little
please.
bit?
Yeah, because this was your idea.
Right.
I'm just wondering.
Well, and so I'm the grants office director at ACC, and it is an office of one, so I direct myself. And it's just a fancy title for a grant writer. So I sit in my office and I write grants. I write on behalf of the foundation and the college to federal, to state, to private foundations, small and large. And the way it works now is, you know, people come and express a need. You know, we don't have this, can you find a funder? Or somebody found a funder and says, can you write this grant? And, you know, like anything else, the squeaky wheel gets agreed. And this last round of tier 2 funding, there were 3, we could submit 3 grants for up to $25,000. And we did. And they all came from Katie and from Trish in our gallery. And, you know, no one in music has reached out to me to say there's a need or to be that squeaky wheel. The same with our writer studio. And I think that's unfortunate because, you know, I'm again a Department 1, so I'm doing what people ask of me, and I do some prospecting, but I would, whether or not we receive it, I think my process going forward is when these come out annually, I will convene those folks I mentioned in the proposal and say, okay, Chuck over in music and all the folks, is Monica?
So yes, the answer is yes.
Thank you. All the folks in the arts and cultural programs at ACC, here are these, we have 3 bites at the apple, who's got the need and whose need is most acute. And so I think we will do that going forward. But I think if we are a tier 1 fund, you know, funded by you for tier 1, I think that's the best practice. And also because it's a little far away when we would actually get that funding, to start talking about it now, what's the best use, and to start talking with you, what are the priorities?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's important to reflect in the minutes that Katie is a squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
Yes,
For sure.
She gets things done.
I do. That's what artists do. We get things done.
Any other questions? Can I get any other comments for us?
Just thank you again for your consideration. We do take this very seriously. And we know that we would be stewards of your stewarded dollars, and we would want to make you proud with those funds. So thank you.
Thank you guys so much for the opportunity.
Thank you all for being here.
So any other questions you think of later tonight or later this week, advance them to Tim. He will make
Yes,
sure that they get answered by whatever the appropriate party is. And
Thank you very much.
thank you. We will discuss in November what, if any, recommendation the board wishes to make. The next thing on our agenda then is we'll go back to the old business section and review the updated lodgers tax policy.
Just in case anyone didn't bring their copies, I've got them for you. Take them all or something, but, so after each of the grant cycles, we have the council that will review our working policy each year. So we're back looking now at the 2025-2026 grant cycle. A lot of the pieces that we have in here, everything that's a change is in red. A lot of the pieces that we have in here are based on feedback that you all have provided to Anna or to me. And then also we've had a few things that staff has come up with that we thought would be also reflective of what the board has asked for. So I don't think we need to take a tremendous amount of time on this. The main changes that we've edited in are on pages 1 and 2. So I'll spend most of the time on those 2 pages. Again, all the changes are in red. They're listed here. You go down to the second paragraph under administration of funds. We've added in regular check-ins with finance, July through July to ensure that the funding is as accurate as possible. I think our last check-in this year was June. There were some changes, obviously, between June and then August when we had to make some adjustments. So we would go through July. You're gonna see some changes in the revenue projections. Those, one of the things that we put in place as a counter to that would be giving the commission the ability to withhold or to hold back up to 10% of the projected revenue each year, so that you have that as a contingency in case in August we come in and we get a revenue projection that has dropped again. You've got a little bit of money there that gives you a cushion, so potentially you don't have to worry about going in and making cuts the way you've done the last 2 years. We are still going to be obviously up against how projections look. We're going with current year funding, so as each month comes in, finance is getting a better sense of where they are with their revenue for the course of the year. So there may still be some adjustments, but we think this year we had $850,000 that we thought we were going to be able to allocate. We would recommend the commissioner, the board, that we hold back up to $85,000 during the first round of distributions. The good news is if revenue projections stay on course or if they go up, then we've got more of a cushion to add back in. That's always more fun. Flipping over to the top of page 2. Again, kind of reflecting what we went through this year. We set a standard of each applicant could submit up to 3 applications for $25,000 each. This year, we would adjust that down so that each applicant can submit only 1. We would raise the amount of money to $30,000. They could only submit 1 application. And this is largely because from 2024, 23 cycle to 2024 cycle, we went from 30 grant applications or 32 grant applications, Anna.
30 to 64.
30 to 64. So we doubled the number of grants. The number of dollars went up $100,000. That didn't double, but it was still a substantial jump. Next year, we won't have the stadium funds, and we were able to push, I think, 14 grants over the stadium funding. Yeah, so a significant amount of money. So our thought is we don't see the need going down. We don't see the number of applications going down. We think they'll go up actually. So this would give us a little more of a governor on the amounts that could be requested. So 1 grant per applicant for a total of $30,000. We've also changed or are recommending changing some of the preferences that we've had for the last 2 years to requirements. So if you drop down to the bullet points, required qualifications, we'll flip over to page to tier 2 in a second and look at those specifically. And these would just be for tier 2. We're also recommending under the note under that paragraph that applications for the mural program would not be considered for arts and culture grants. Those would be pushed towards the mural program since we do still have funding for that. And that was, I think, 8 grants this year.
Coming at me with all the numbers, Tim. I think it was around
7 or 8. Yeah. So it was, again, it was a good sized number of them. I mean, clearly there is mural program funding. So we would suggest that those not be considered under the arts and culture grants too. It's not going to be a huge number, but it would give us a little bit more of a cushion. Just change some wording here. As you will note, for the last 2 years, we have not been strictly adhering to the 50%, 25%, 15%, and 10% allocations for tiers 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what we're suggesting is just changing the language to reflect the reality that we're doing approximately those numbers, but we're doing some rounding, and we're trying to also to be the word of the night, good stewards with where that money is going. So the last year when we made adjustments downward, we held tier 2 harmless and made cuts to tiers 1, 3, and 4. This year we recommended holding tier 1 harmless and making cuts to 2, 3, and 4. We are probably about as far into cutting tier 3 as we can. I think we have a commitment through our ballot language to make sure that we continue providing funding for tourism marketing. That was an understanding that we reached with the hotels so that they were not in opposition to the lodgers tax. So that's probably about the end of that rope. We don't have a ton in tier 4 anyway. And we've certainly not been able to do some of the things that I know the board has wanted to do. Acquisition of public art has been cut 2 years in a row. We were able to do the arts and culture master plan this year. I don't know that we could have, this, it's going on right now. I don't know in the current funding cycle whether we would have been able to do that if this had come out in 25 cycle. So we're trying to look for some flexibility where we can. You'll note then the last bullet point under the first paragraph, other criteria approved by the ACB. I think December, JD, is what we talked about coming back.
It was November, December. I think November got pretty full, so.
Yeah, I think we moved to
December, January, before applications.
Before the
are
cycle
finalized.
opens, we want to give the board another chance to go through kind of the revised policy and figure out as we.
We really want you all here in December, so I'll skip it.
It's possible that'll get pushed to January because I do know what people's schedules get like in December. But we want the board to have one more shot to think about. Are there other criteria? Are there requirements, preferences? Things that they want to put in place before we open the grant cycle in February.
February 28th.
Thank you, ma'am.
More numbers. Yeah.
Anna is killing it. So everything else is really just sort of cleaning up the language on the next 3 pages. And then on the last page, you'll see several changes, some strikeouts. This is again, just sort of adjusting the calendars to meet what the reality is. Probably the only change that really is significant is rather than make a final determination of awards at the July meeting, we will have those as a tentative decision and we will come back at the August meeting. So the last 2 years, that's kind of when we got the hard fast number from finance. You come back at the August meeting in case we need to make any adjustments at that point. So it would be, I guess, bowing to reality that we may have to make some adjustments one way or the other. Get a little closer to that. Projections. That's all I've got on the presentation, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, board?
No, just one little tiny thing. And that, not that I think that we should take it out, but just under tier 2, how now it's preferred qualification for commitment to DEI.
I've got to go back to that, sorry.
So my thought is just that in the 2 years that we've gone through this, I don't think it has had any impact whether we have actually funded anybody. Like a lot of people didn't, good organizations didn't have it. Some organizations had a great program and it made no difference to our decisions.
I think that's pretty accurate. That's why we left that one as a preference. And that was.
But I just wonder, as long as we're making changes, why not leave it out?
I think we need it in. I think it's really important that we leave this in.
I think
We
the
need
city
to-
would agree because they're really heavily into a major DEI move for the entire city organization. But I don't think you're wrong. I think that's one of the things that we talked about as a staff is this has not been one that has been really a heavy hand on the scale. It has been, and it shouldn't be since all of them were preferences, but that was the one that did seem like it had probably less impact. We did hold a little more tightly if they were not in Littleton or if they weren't offering public programming, things like that. So I think you make a good.
I just think it's
Yeah,
important
no,
that
I
it
think-
gets left in.
Yeah, I
so
think
that we
I think it's fine.
have the appearance.
Yeah. But it is just appearance.
Yeah,
Sometimes that's where you start.
Well, I'll offer too that we discussed whether or not that should be a required qualification. At this time, because the city is still in the middle of its own broader debate, we didn't necessarily feel it was appropriate for us to require something of organizations that the city itself is not yet adhering to. I could see easily in the future, once the city adopts a policy, that we follow suit and require that. And I think as we continue to work with these organizations through the Cultural Arts Partner Program and encourage that type of cultural mindset and awareness, we'd move more in the direction of requiring it, but didn't feel it was appropriate quite yet to do so.
I also wanted to point out the 3rd bullet under the required qualifications. It's not actually a qualification, it just says number of Littleton residents. We may have some questions about that. I think that's something that the board would likely discuss more and whenever that happens. But it's a little unclear in the language here what that actually means.
Yeah, it's just, you just want a list, you just want You want a list of the number of Littleton residents served, right?
Yeah, I think the wording just needs to be tightened up a little bit, and we can definitely do that.
One of the things we've talked about internally, with the application itself is asking for more specifics in some of the responses, and that's one of them. We haven't always got an answer, and we haven't always gotten a very accurate answer, so we're gonna ask for more of that. The other thing that came up the other night at the council workshop or the council session was a question about whether or not we were asking the applicants that if they didn't get full funding for a project that they turned an application in for, could they still do the project? Would they not be able to do it? We had intended, I think, to include that this year. I think it was one of those things that we didn't get in, and unfortunately, but that will be in next year's. I think that is important. Anecdotally, Anna did check in with a lot of or almost all the applicants. I think said, you're probably not going to get full funding for anything this year. Everyone's probably going to get some sort of a haircut. And they all indicated, yes, we could go forward. We'd have to look for funding or something like that to finish things out. But that is one thing that we'll make sure this is in there, because there isn't really any sense in saying you can apply for $30,000. When we get back, we don't have enough to award everyone $30,000 grant. Inevitably, we're going to get more dollars asked for than we are dollars to distribute. So we would want to make sure that a project was still viable if it has partial funding.
Can I ask a question? That Hudson Gardens, just in the future, do you foresee, and would the recommendation come from this committee if you ever wanted to possibly change that or switch it out, say with a different entity, just because the tax situation is pretty convoluted?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the reality of where we are right now, Emily, is the city is committed to keeping. This is my opinion, but I think the city is committed to keeping Hudson Gardens in tier 1 while they work through their strategic plan for the gardens. They're in the process of doing that now. JD and I were in a status meeting with them this afternoon. Their projection is to have it done by, I think, the midpoint of next year. I think that will be a question the council will ask at that point. Are they seeing direction for Hudson Gardens that they feel is appropriate for a community-wide organization like they have been? But I think it is at any point, while it is always council's prerogative to designate, I think it's perfectly fine if the board at some point says, if you came back next month and said, well, we do want to recommend ACC, but we're not comfortable having 5 instead of 4, while the revenue is still kind of fluctuating the way it is. Yeah, I mean, you can make that recommendation to council. And the nice thing is we're always working a year out. So the ACC application is for 2026, which would be the earliest that they could consider that.
Tim, what happens to this policy after tonight?
I've run this by Jim and Mike. If the board approves it tonight the way it is, Jim does not feel that there are significant substantive differences. He will simply pass it on to council as this is this year's policy for the Arts and Culture Board. So it doesn't need to go to council for approval.
So I haven't heard any changes to this. What's proposed? Is that correct? Are there any discussion points? Then, since we don't vote on things officially, because we're a board, everyone clap your hand. I don't know. Yeah, right foot in, left foot out. If there are no objections, we will consider this approved by the Arts and Culture Board and advance it to the city manager's office for council's blessing. Hearing none. So that takes us then to the last thing on our agenda, which is the mural policy update.
That would be me. Similar to the ACC proposal, this is not something to review or discuss tonight. It's mostly just providing a little bit of context for it. You have a little bit of homework to take home with you, review it, and then if you have comments or feedback, to send it directly to Tim or I within the next month or so. But it's actually, the impetus for this came mostly from what I, a lot of interest, excitement, motivation, momentum, and the community saw through tier 2 grant applicants for murals in the community. It's a new program and we wanted to tighten up the policy a little bit more so that we could be better prepared as demands come through. So as you'll see on here, this highlights a little bit more. There's a website too where people can go and get more information on the specifics, but it tells a little bit more about what the procedure looks like, a proposed calendar for an application window, what the required materials would be, and then some additional definitions for signs versus murals as defined by the city of Littleton. So I think most importantly, the mural application calendar, what I'm proposing is for all interested wall owners potentially to submit an application starting in January for review, likely by the Fine Arts Subcommittee in the spring. And then we present it to this committee later in the spring or early summer. And then for the work this is all like very bare bones right now, but for the work to take part in the second half of the year. We'll have 20,000 in the tier 4 fund for murals going into next year. So that would likely just fund either one large mural or maybe 2 smaller ones. But yeah. Go ahead.
So would you clarify, this is not for all murals in the city of Littleton? This is if
This
you
is
want
for the mural
funding.
fund that is $20,000 in tier 4. Yeah.
So if a mural is part of something else.
Oh, they do whatever they want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say though that the city does have code about mural and
Yes.
signage and things like that.
Very
So
wonderful.
should a proposed mural fall within a project elsewhere at the city, it would need to meet that demand.
Yeah.
And then the question, so did Denver Brewery go through those steps is there popping a mural?
We don't know because that's through code enforcement. Yeah. If it's utilizing or requesting funding from the Arts Council Board, we'll know about it. If not, then I'll drive by and see it and cool, I'll take a picture of it.
Yeah. And we do have, thanks to Jenny, a really incredible online collection of all of these murals.
Well, all the ones I've seen.
All the ones you've seen. So great, yeah.
So if you see something that's not on there, let me know. I'll go over and take pictures and add it in. So I want to document the history of all murals.
Yeah.
What's the website? That is Artwork Archive is the name of the website. And it's actually a really great website that is predominantly used for individual artists to go on and share their works. They do call for entries and things like that. But municipalities are frequently using that because they can change up public art collections very easily too. So.
And I will send out the link to the electronic version of this, and I'll also include the link if anyone's interested to Artwork Archive, because it's really a great resource.
If you can't find it, you can always find it through the museum's webpage too, and look up public art, because it's all linked on there.
And you very generously offered 4 to 6 weeks or so. May I amend that and just say, look at it in the next couple weeks and get it in, and if we can, we might act as early as November on this. Particularly if there's not a lot of changes, and then we can just move on. Is that?
That's great. Yeah, let's say November 1st, if you have feedback, and that will give us time to address it at the next board meeting.
Any other comments at this point on the mural policy or questions?
Just in terms of what came up in public comment at the beginning of the meeting, you know, in terms of the amount of murals in the city or locations or restrictions, is that going to be considered as part of this as well?
No, this is only pertaining to our mural program fund.
Okay.
So is that the question you figured out? I think I know. what you're
I'm just
asking, but-
wondering if there's some policy on like maximum capacity for murals in the city of Littleton.
I think the broader answer is not really. I mean, the city, and both noted, I mean, the city does have code requirements, particularly the signage code, that would put some restrictions
Right.
on what can be done with a mural. But if it's on private property, or if it's on private or commercial property, that the city doesn't own. And they want to do it, there probably isn't a lot, as long as it meets the requirements of the code, there probably isn't a lot that the city could do to police that. Diana's right, this really is just talking about murals that are put up, installed with.
Funded by us.
Funding by our program.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, within that, I will say, because Pam, I think, made a couple of good points when she was talking about this and during a couple of comments. I do think that this is going to be a work in progress. One of the things that we have learned through the first couple of years of having the mural program is, learned a lot of things. Among them, I think it would be probably just how much of a logistical challenge some of these are. We certainly know there are some arts and culture deserts in Littleton. So the idea of making sort of an application window where you would submit all the murals that are going to come in at the same time. It should be judged a little more equitably in terms of where they're placed and that sort of thing. I think we'd have a little more control over that. When they come in just sort of willy-nilly, one at a time, 2 in February, 3 in April, you're kind of going first come, first served until you run out of money.
No, I think it's good.
So I think this will help with some of those concerns.
In our strategic plan, JD, is this too in the weeds for them to address? I mean, is it something that we could look at the mural plan strategically?
I don't. I think that, and Tim went exactly where I was thinking is we will hear from the consultants about our current ongoing arts and culture plan. It will speak to the overall community feelings towards arts, and that may include murals, it may include arts and culture deserts, it may include opportunity that then the public art subcommittee can look at and make their own recommendations about how things should be applied or not applied, or where or how or when. And I certainly wouldn't discourage those types of exploratory questions about can we have this conversation? Can we convene the subcommittee for this reason? Can we explore XYZ? In reality, as was pointed out, $20,000 is maybe 2 murals, maybe. And so we're not talking about a huge output. But I think the beauty of those subcommittees is the opportunity to explore these questions without getting into the weeds as a broader board, but then taking them back to us. So there you go.
I think finally too, it gives us a little bit more of like a strategic framework for people in the community who come to you with questions about murals. You can refer back to this document and have a little bit more of an approved place to come from, I guess, when people are asking questions about. So I get a lot of questions just from community development even of people interested in murals. It's a starting point, yes.
So look for that on a future agenda. That brings us to the end of our agenda. We can do a quick roundtable if there's nothing else business-wise for the good of the group. Joe, you want to start? Let's go that way. So, anything else?
I talked a lot.
Hunchback of Notre Dame next weekend. I have tickets, so I encourage everybody to go. I'll be there Saturday night.
Greeting people at the door.
Will you let me?
You bringing popcorn?
Oh.
It's a big, private joke.
It's not all that private anymore.
No.
I was gonna say, a few of us had a fun time picking the pictures for the calendar last week. And
Oh, yeah, that
we
was.
had a
fun.
late breaking controversy because the January picture we came to discover, which is from ACC staff, Catherine Winograd,
Oh.
the picture was not shot in Littleton. So it had to be
Uh-oh.
disqualified.
Which one was
We're
that?
on it, we're fixing it.
Wait, was that the blue one with the pelican?
The one at the very, January, yeah.
There's a swan, I
I think it was a shot there.
That was my favorite.
I've been
Yeah.
thinking about that. Denise, those calendar photos, that's a thing.
It is.
It really is.
Thing.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. So.
It was fun.
In a long time.
That's great.
Thanks for everybody who came to the craft fair. It was amazing.
Thanks for all the crafters who came. to the craft fair.
Holy cow,
It was hot.
it was hot and there were people. So, thank you very much.
We had
Going on
17.
Heritage this weekend. by chance?
There might be some live theater going on. What was it again? Something Shakespeare.
The Comedy of Errors.
Yes.
Premiere tonight and there's
Tonight.
a show tomorrow and then
So,
a matinee on Saturday.
I came here instead. Yeah, so, so there are shows on
Commitment.
Friday and Saturday.
I'll be there
so
on
they'll be-
Saturday. Trust
they'll be
me, I'll
ready to
get
go.
one of these.
We had 17,274 people at the craft fair this year. so.
So the woman sitting next to me was selling her children's book and she said, I can't believe 10,000 people would come by here. And I went, oh, just wait. And you will try to talk to every one of them. As the droves are going by, starting at, wow, 9 o'clock, 8:30.
We
8:30
filled
people
the
were there
east-
shopping.
We filled the east parking lot by 9:45, which is the earliest we've ever.
Yeah,
So,
it was
quite a day.
It was amazing, so. Good job. Thank you. Thank you for.
A couple things is, if you haven't seen the, A Place for All People exhibit coming up, we do have a lecture next Thursday. If you haven't picked up tickets, you can call the front desk of the museum or you can email me and I'll get you hooked up. The speaker is a Smithsonian,
Well, she's a professor and a curator.
yeah, yeah, speaking about the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And so that's coming up next Thursday. And then the mining exhibit is in its last couple of weeks. So if you haven't seen it, please do come see it. It was a really a labor of love and proud of it to the very end. So please come see that. And then Harvest Festival this weekend if you have information to come get pumpkins, Kate.
More pumpkin.
Pumpkins.
Five
So,
more.
10 to 3.
Very cute photo ops.
Weather's good, and it's going to be. We should have 8, 9, 10,000 for that one too, so. it's always-
At least.
Always a big day, yeah, it's always a big day.
Just covering.
I've talked enough.
Nothing further now?
No such thing. A couple things. One is on Saturday before the Harvest Festival, please feel invited to stop by Epic and sit in on a few minutes or all of the training from 8 to noon. Again, it's a training very specifically for working arts and culture nonprofit organizations. So very honed and very targeted at taking what is the vast majority of arts and culture nonprofits in Littleton and raising them up. The first session last April was on governance and policy and sort of how to be a good nonprofit board. Each organization had one-on-one time with the consultants since then. This training is specifically on then the next step, which is strategic planning, and each organization will have another one-on-one opportunity. So this is a big deal. And I think has been very well received from all of the nonprofits I've heard from. And a big feather, I think, in the cap of this body. So you are invited to stop by and sit in on it if you'd like to. Second is in the Littleton report that came out on Monday? Tuesday? Yesterday?
Yeah.
Look through it for the Hudson Gardens survey workshop that is out there. There is an exercise. This is the first opportunity for public engagement on offered by South Suburban, funded by their tier 1 money from this body to weigh into the future of Hudson Gardens and what it should, in your opinions, look like for this community. So I encourage all of you to take it. I encourage you to share it with your peers and communities and make sure that the future of Hudson Gardens, frankly, is not being determined by people who live in Centennial and Lone Tree. It's ours. So make sure that they hear our voices. And that is it.
Is this training this Saturday?
This Saturday.
Oof.
Even if you stop by for 5 minutes and just
There's breakfast.
I just have a workshop all day that I'm hosting, so I
Oh.
can't.
Come by for breakfast and coffee.
Pick up a bagel
At 8?
at 8.
Okay. At Epic?
So Dennis, I just want to quickly compliment your staff on how they handle Band Book Week. I can only imagine how tricky that is with the ages and different people that you have coming through your doors, but they do such a lovely job, and the blind date with a band book gets me every year. So well done to your team. I have to plug Nutcracker. It's coming up in December. They're already rehearsing for it, but it's the weekend of December 20th. So it's very close to Christmas this year. 3 days, 5 shows. So more to come on that.
I was just gonna mention our calendar group also. Raise your hand if you were there. We had, yes, it was fun.
It was fun.
It was a neat thing to do. And apparently this year we've done an animal calendar.
It's always a surprise.
It's always a surprise.
Yeah, somebody came
It's
up with it.
really good. Somebody went along with it.
Sure did.
I do want to add the presentation in front of city council on Tuesday. They were really impressed with the training that has been brought together for the cultural art partners. That really resonated with the city council. So great job.
I'm going to the Alfred Packard thing. I can't remember the name for it, but with a bunch of friends, we've had that planned for a few months. And my dad got us tickets to the Littleton Symphony Voices West. So I'm excited about that as well. I'm excited about getting bees and cider all over my family this Saturday. It happens every year, SWAT bees.
We're not having bees this year.
And just also, Dennis, thank you for the book band thing. There was actually a book that we're reading at our school right now with the 5th graders that was on the shelf of band books. And I took a picture of that shelf and showed it to my students. They lost their minds.
What's the book?
It was The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963. Yeah, really powerful book. And so the kids just couldn't believe it. So thank you for the displays there. They mean a lot.
I will add, finally, if no one has anything to do this weekend, Littleton High School is doing Around the World in 80 Days. They opened tonight.
Cool.
$10 ticket if you wish to go and partake.
Go after Harvest Festival.
Or after Harvest Festival, which is when I will be there. Thank you all so much. See you next month. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Oh, fair. Yes. Oh.
Yeah, that, well, especially for.
So we load in, it's arts and culture stuff, there's a lot going on all the time.
Yeah.
Take it down, so it's tight.
Go through and then
And these
the
women
building
are-
is on the right.
The women, sure.
Oh, I know.
It's on the right.
Okay,
It's on
well,
this.
they really got in my head. Does
Yeah.
the wind get us?
Yeah.
No,
It's
okay.
huge.
It's fine, we're fine.
Okay.
Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
We have to wait on it, drive enough, wait on the show, we're
I have just my ACC. It's already.
And so then it turned out,
Thank you very much.
I mean, the little pieces are just taking the job.
Yeah.
I was sure you were, because I did the west side this year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just nice to be in the same place all the time.
Yeah, no,
And,
that way we keep it over.
I'll take it.
Yeah, that's where my son.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, but I like the gibbon.
I'm gonna go home and go to bed.
Gibbon, so as I did it and about lost the card, a couple of your staff members are rubbing it good. And I'm like. Okay.
Oh. We end up doing stuff even as late as Saturday morning, 9.
This was Saturday.
Incredible. Oh.
Which I like it this way.
They looked as tired as I was.
Good job, by the way.
Thank
And your
you.
staff, thank you so much.
I'm so grateful that I have time.
A president of college.
So, yeah. South Suburban. I wear mine quite a bit. You know. Wrong. I mean, I'll still probably wear it sometimes. I'll just break it out.
Like a rebel, so.
You were fake like that.
Take this.
Yeah, I was
just
objecting.
was ready because
Yeah,
they're.
thanks, Jen.
Thanks.
Their work rate.
Go get these. That's what it's all about.
Right.
I was a lady next to me.
Get in.
She was thrilled.